Hello, my lovies. I'm trying to show you guys the sunset going down, but the sun's a little bit behind the clouds. You can almost catch it. You can see it right there. This is one of my favorite spots. This is at the top of my manifestation mansion, my little meditation hill. Oh, now we got good lighting. Got some spots over there, and this is just my sacred space. And so I might get to go inside because it is actually a little bit cold, even though it's California. So I'll give it a second while everyone's popping on. First off, you guys, as you're popping on, please tell me where you're joining me from. I see already some of my favorite amazing beings. Tara, you gorgeous goddess, you sovereign being. Yeah, please tell me that you can hear me okay. You guys, I actually think, oh look, can you see? You got me bliss lighting it. I didn't realize that I turned on one of the, the bliss lights in the backyard, even though the sun's not down yet. So, now I'm all blissed up. Isn't that cool, guys? You thought that I was using special effects. I just stepped in front of my bliss lights. So I want to talk about, hi Oliver, so good to see you, my friend, joining from North Carolina, awesome. Hello, beautiful goddess Tara, so glad you're here. I want to talk about trusting the process of life. And first off, okay, the whole reason I actually was doing a little bit of meditation out here before I started, getting really clean and clear, and wanted to show you the sunset, even though it's a little bit of a sunset going down behind the clouds tonight, is what I want you to consider is, do you trust that the sun's gonna set every day and the sun's gonna rise every day? Like, have you thought about, do we trust, obviously that the grass grows every day, that the birds are flying, like you trust that you're gonna breathe every day, right? You trust that you're just gonna breath is effortless and breath is happening every second. You don't really have to think about it. In fact, we're so unconscious of our breath that we forget to just be present in the moment. Going through like my little massive jungle here. Thinking about this, trusting the process of life, and actually I'm gonna, Bali, come with me, come on inside. There's my Bali love girl. I have a fire already going for me inside here, so give me a second, I'll actually turn on some lights as we'll still let everybody pop on. That's why the bliss lights are on, I hit the lights. So, for some of you beings that are on already, you've been here to the magical manifestation mansion for the Goddess Empire, which the last one that's happening is happening next weekend. So for those of you that are coming to that, I'm super excited to share that space with you. And even Tara that's on, you were here at the 3-day ultimate upgrade experience. So I want to share, let me see if that helps. There, now you guys can see a little bit better. We'll see if this works. I'm so technical. I'm more technical every day, guys. So, whoa! that's just the funness of live stuff. I guess we don't need that because that might make my camera fall over, but we'll just hope that the lighting's good enough in here. I got fireplace, I've got you guys, and I've got talking about trusting the process of life. So, if you guys are ready with me, and we've got Bali Love, look. Bali Love with her magical heart on her body. She's hanging out with me too. So I want to kind of stem off of, I've been going through a transition, and I shared authentically last week because I had done some healing work. And hi Bobby, love you my friend. I had done some healing work, and it came up where it was really powerful and strong for me to share, talking about these connections we have to our societal roles and our identities. And again, I'm here simply as being a space to be completely authentic, completely vulnerable. I believe in transparency because there's nothing to hide and there's nothing to prove. And I see all my experiences in this, beautiful, holy human experience as being perfect, as being, there's no thought for me of a judgment on anything or an attachment or an expectation because of the processes that I've done. And that's why, I love with my peeps, I've heard it all. I've heard it all, and I never have a thought process of judgment or anything about any experience anyone has ever had, because I simply know they're just experiences that we called in to learn and grow and to, allow, for myself, some of the things that I'm going to share with you guys are new discoveries for me. And I'll just even tell you, right out of the gate, which I'll kind of swing back around, but I found out, or I'll say in a more aligned way, is that I unblocked a memory that I had sexual abuse when I was little. And my entire life, I pretty much have been through the shit of everything. And so I always joke around with my peeps, and people always ask why I can do what I do. And I have this, these capabilities. So even that's another aspect of when we go through certain traumas, we do that to ask ourselves to open up capabilities. So I mean, having the psychic, abilities that I have, if you'll call it that, having an open pineal gland to see what I see, I didn't realize a lot of these things had come from, just the different experiences I've had. So I always joke with my peeps. I always say, the reason I can call out your bullshit is because I was the bullshitter. I was the one who was in that exact experience, not seeing the unseen gaps, not seeing the unseen blocks that I didn't know were keeping me from something, because I was in a form of, my human conditioning, and I was blocking, or I was seeing it through certain eyes or parameters. So I'm just here really to share with you guys, and I'll swing back around why I'm so fucking happy. I'm so happy that I discovered this. So, and with all the work that I've done, I've always said for years to people like, I've been through almost every traumatic experience except sexual abuse. Meaning I had rape attempts, I had stalkers, I had kidnap attempts, I had guys try to rape and kill me. But I always just said I never had sexual abuse because it didn't actually happen. I actually fought off my attackers. And in what's beautiful is because of this transition that I've been in, for those of you that joined me this last week, as I shared authentically and I bawled my eyes out, of the things that were coming up as my little Gavin the Great, he felt called to go be with his brother, and Skylar, my oldest, felt called about 6 months ago to be able to go move to Utah, and they decided, they're 11 and 14, and I've had them forever. I've had them always. And they were only 1 and 4 years old when I first got divorced, when I found out my former had cheated. And so they've always been with mom, other than, when I'm traveling around the world and doing those things in our journey of growth together. They're my growth partners. And as I got to let Gavin, support him in what he was feeling called to, now them just feeling called to go live in a different space and stand for who they are and find out who they are, because they're very different environments. One's a Mormon LDS, very religious environment, and also just more of a different consciousness of understanding, we'll say, compared to the journey we've been on together and how we've chosen to live and experience things. And so as I chose to just be a space of love, support, and acceptance, and took Gavin out there, a lot of things started coming up for me, realizing that even as in this societal, some way, this connection to this identity of mother and focusing on my babes, there was actually still a form of blocking absolute, only, whole, complete love for myself. Meaning, and what I got to discover through some of the stuff was what came up, was these unblocked memories of sexual abuse. And so now I'm like, wow, I really have experienced it all. And the great thing about this, which I want to really lay this down for you guys, I want to give you some understanding that will create a whole different paradigm and context. Because this is why, for me, I actually feel so much fucking lighter and happier because I discovered this. There isn't, I have to know certain things, or shame or blame or judgment. Because actually, with all the people I've coached through the years, and even the whole Me Too movement, the Me Too movement is when I got direct downloads to step in and do this one-day goddess empowerment. It's massive clearing and stepping into alignment in expression and embodiment. It was because of the Me Too, and where it was so much evidence around this. I was like, if there's almost everyone's experienced this, wouldn't we see this now as it being one of the greatest gifts we can experience to experience vulnerability, compassion, love for ourselves and other humanity? So that's what all of these experiences are. So thank you, Christine. I appreciate that sweetness. So really, I know that all of these experiences have been perfect for me, and I really felt called to kind of update you guys and share with you what it's actually unlocked for me, or why this is so important. So let's think about this. Like, neurophysiology says that we take in 400 billion bits of information within our field and in our brain. That's how much our brain takes in per second, okay? Yet, what our brain can actually process, or the amount we can I'll say integrate and understand, is less than 2,000 bits of information, okay? Why is there such a massive gap between 2,000 bits of information I can actually process, and there's up to 400 billion bits of information my brain has a capability of taking in at one time per second? Why would we have such a massive gap to that, okay? And so when you ask the question why, it's because our level of consciousness, actually, and I'm getting hot now that I'm by the fire, and I'm wearing like a fur vest, so I'm gonna strip down a little bit. So it's that our level of consciousness, okay? Our level of consciousness and understanding equates to a level of frequency. So that's why, you know, when we say that someone has more awakening or understanding, or they're more awakened, they're actually just vibrating at a higher frequency, because frequency is just an equation. You know, it's a vibrational, energetic equation to understanding. When we have a level of understanding, we have the capacity to hold more information, to energetically move more information, etc. So reality, really, it's constantly happening, right? It's constantly happening in front of us. I started this video saying, do you trust that the sun's going to rise and set? Do you trust that process of life? Do you trust that your breath is going to rise and fall, that you're going to be breathing every second, okay? Do you trust that the, you know, grass is growing? So reality is that it's constantly happening. It's constantly happening around us. Like, you know, it's constantly coming into our brain all the time, all this bits of information, but we're unable to integrate it. We're unable to understand the information because our field of awareness is too narrow, okay? So the reason why I feel called to share, you know, what I've been transitioning, what it's opened up for me and all of these things is what's come into my path of awareness is, and now I've integrated even in this understanding, you know, so that I can pass these gifts on to you to understand as well, right? And so it's like understanding the freedom, the liberation, the remembrance. Now, there's only the reason you're not experiencing, you know, if it's liberation, if it's freedom, if it's millionaire consciousness, billionaire consciousness, all these things is simply because you haven't received those codes. You haven't activated those codes within you, haven't activated that remembrance, the understanding. So as soon as you learn something, you're like, oh, I get it now. I understand. Now I see the world and the paradigm through those eyes of understanding. That means, again, now I'm taking in more bits of I actually see more pieces that before they were just, I kind of ignored, and I couldn't even really take them in because it was too much for my understanding. It was too much for my level of consciousness. And so, you know, when we get these context points, you know, that's why I love context. I love creating the understanding and filling in the gaps for people so that they're aware and awakened. It's not, you know, it's that then becomes the, you know, your neural pathways and your structure and the way that you operate, because you've now understood and you're learning, you're being in this different space. So, you know, I was really in a place where I used to try to control life, right? I had to control life. I had to, I was so afraid of being, I was afraid of everything, really. I was so afraid of rejection. I was afraid of being seen. I mean, I'll put it, you know, remembering the day when I used to, when Skylar was really little, if someone knocked on my door, I'd literally be like, shh. Have you guys done that? I mean, back in the day, it was like, I wouldn't even answer my door if someone knocked on my door because I was afraid my house was too messy and I would be embarrassed. I wouldn't go out of my house or imagine going to the store without makeup on, or, you know, I was so afraid of being seen. I was so afraid of rejection. I was so afraid of everything. And that's just even like, that's actually a result of the life that I live and I grew up in. So even, you know, to give you a short understanding of it is that everything, I was trying to control everything. Because as, you know, when we're in the human experience and we're conditioned to control, we're so desperate to control something because that's what feels safe. So when everything that I tried to control, ended up controlling me. Everything that I was afraid of, and so I was trying to control life around, ended up being exactly what I received, because it was what I was afraid of and what I focused on. And so, you know, I'll give you kind of a short-knit backstory, and so we can revert back to understanding this context and understanding this so that you can now see life through the reality and the lens of what's possible and available for you. So, I mean, I had a fear of people, and you know, I had rape attempts, as I mentioned before. I had kidnappers, I had stalkers. Obviously now I unblocked that I even had sexual abuse. So being raised, I was afraid of the world. I was afraid of people. People were scary, and I always had to be watching out. What did I attract? I attracted those things. That was perfect, because that gave me, it gave me the ability to find that I am the source of my own safety. that I'm the source of my own power, I'm the source of my own experience. A lot of these attributes that I teach in Enlightened Emperor and Empress, or Enlightened Empire, is understanding how to be your own empire, how to be the source of your own experience, right, guys? Thumbs up and hearts for that. Can I get some hearts? I'm talking about sexual abuse, I just remembered here. And what's so great about this is I'm talking about how it's made me happier, how there's more lightness and more freedom in this understanding, and how it's actually opened up more capabilities, which I'll get to. But the point is, those things were perfect for me. Those things perfectly gave me the ability to find new capabilities within me, to find my power, my strength for me to be here. So on top of that, right, I've mentioned obviously that, you know, my former had cheated on me after being raised in a very strict religious environment. Virgin till I was married in the temple, 7 years of marriage. And my boys were just 1 and 4 years old, and I found out my husband had cheated. And now I look at that and go, perfect. I mean, not even now. Again, this is where I want you to understand the context, understand this being in that space that right now, understanding trusting the process of life, just like you trust that you're going to breathe and the sun's going to rise and set, okay? So perfectly seeing that, having that experience led me to fully loving myself. I had to become the source of my own validation, the source of my own love, the source of my own power, not seeking anything outside me. That's what led me to have the most epic, amazing, passionate, fulfilled, whole and complete relationship that I'm in now with my beloved, and have the most epic relationships with my kids. I wouldn't have learned how to create epic relationships and the principles of that, of me operating consciously and then to reflect that and be that. I wouldn't have the relationship I had with my kids if I didn't have that experience. And now, looking at, so many aspects, it was like that it taught me, obviously. And so even sickness, okay? So this has been a part of what's given me freedom now. From the time I was little, my dad had diabetes, and all my family members were always sick. Like had several family members die of all sorts of sicknesses. There was always cancer, and someone has this and someone has that. And I believe from a very young age that the body was a fight. You had no control over the body. The body was an absolute fight. So what did I create? I created crazy amounts of sicknesses from the time I was little. I had migraines, I had ulcers, I had really weird sicknesses where they thought I was going to die even from as a young child. I had breast cancer. I had a heart attack. I had all of these things that became my experience, because obviously we see how creation happens in my belief system. Yet from that beautiful gift, and me even fighting my body that I had to be perfect to be loved, I became anorexic, bulimic. That's what led me to wanting to understand the body. And all of this allowed me to now where it's like, I actually get younger every day. I'm anti-aging. If you look at pictures of me 10 years ago, I look 10 years older than I do now. It's why I still have these. I still have a rockin' body of health. I know how to live in pure alignment with my body. And I learned from those experiences how to heal myself, because I know how to design my cells. I know how to tell my cells exactly what I want to create and experience, and how to reverse age, how to heal the body. I healed myself of breast cancer. And on top of that though, you can see how, and this is what I just want to share authentically, is that we all still have our experiences that are meant to continue to allow us to be in the vulnerable human experience, to be able to find, be seeking greater and greater. It can only get greater and greater, which I'm going to kind of break this down for you. Yet, so from the time I was little, actually, when I first really started to tune into this, again, my level of consciousness and all that I could see is I thought I stopped sleeping at 11 because I had a stalker. And I didn't sleep at all from basically age 11 till 28 years old, which is when I found out my former was cheating, and I got a big ass wake up call. Again, this beautiful gift that happened to allow me to go deeper. I knew always that there had to be something more. I was seeking, there had to be something more. I basically had 3 jobs since I was 6 years old. And I always, just worked around the clock and did all these things and trying to support my family, my mom after my dad passed away when I was 15. And I was always so desperate for something more, but I only had the very surface understanding. And that kept me in the cycle of chaos. And chaos just comes before clarity. So all the chaos brings the clarity, and a lot of times people stay there because they're not willing to actually see it for what it is. And this is what I want to share with you guys. So, looking at like, or if I give you kind of an update of where I'm at now, okay? So having struggled, I realized I actually, when I started to connect the dots, I was like, no, I thought I stopped sleeping because I felt unsafe, because I had a stalker and kidnappers and rape attempts, etc. As I've done years and years and years of journey of experiences and healings and peeling back the layers of understanding on this, because it would come and go. At 28 years old, when I started to understand that I created my world, I started saying, I'm never going to speak that I don't sleep again. My mom used to call every day and be like, how's it going? How'd you sleep? And I'd go, I didn't. I'm exhausted, and I got kids to take care of, and da-da-da-da-da. And I didn't know at the time, I was only declaring more of having that shit-ass experience. I was creating more of that. And it's the same thing when I share my story in some of my coachings and some different, obviously these understandings, one of the things I share about is when the moment I found out I had breast cancer. And how when I went to call and tell my mom, I had this understanding that came through. It's like I received the code. And it was like, click, oh my gosh. And I realized and I saw, and I'd seen like The Secret, which The Secret is very surface. And it was just like, your thoughts create your things. Okay, and that's a piece of it. A thought creates gravity. So you're actually not even the creator. You're the co-creator with the universe. The universe has no right or wrong about anything. It simply is going off of energy and the vibrational energy and dark matter, etc., to create something. And the moment you put a thought towards something, it simply pulls gravity towards that thought to bring you something. And so you're just a co-creator based on what you choose in your operating systems, which is a lot of what I teach. And I had this, the moment I said to my mom, I have breast cancer, I felt my entire body go, ugh, you're sick. I felt the energetic vibration of it. And I instantly had like time stopped, and all of a sudden I had this whole vision was like I'm on the phone with her and everything stopped. And it's like, I wasn't even in this dimension anymore. I all of a sudden was given this insight of that word and that thought go, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I tell my sister or my family or friends I have breast cancer, all of a sudden I saw this huge declaration go out of I'm sick and I have breast cancer. And I just realized, it was like a massive turning point for me, because I realized I wanted to be the victim who survived. I wanted to be the martyr. Those were identity patterns I had. That was how I was validated. My life was so fucking hard. That's how I was validated, that I was enough. I always survived, okay? And some of you can relate to that. A lot of you can relate to that, feeling like, man, it's just a survival process, one thing after another. Believe me, as much as I live in the Magical Manifestation Mansion, I travel the world, and I have the most epic life, and I live in bliss state consciousness, believe me, guys, I 100% completely resonate and understand that place, because I came from that, and I moved through that. I called it in for me and moved through it because of these understandings. And it's why I'm so passionate about just standing here, being here, transparent, and sharing with you everything in my world and everything because that's the only way, by sharing this frequency and this new language and this understanding, that you too can actually see what you're doing and can see the bigger understanding to be able to create something different. And so I realized that if I told anyone else and I was focused on being sick, I was like, I could die. And what did I really want is I wanted to be there. At the time, Skylar was 2. And I was like, I want to be there for my little boy. I want to be a mom. I want to be able to raise my son. And I had to call myself on my own shit and say, whoa, okay, wait, if that's what I really want, if I want health, and now I get this wherever I put my attention, my energy, it's going to grow. And I will receive it, and I will call that in. Just like I called in the rape attempts, the kidnappers, the stalker, the cheating, everything, because that's what I was afraid of and I was trying to control. I was focused on it to try to control it. I was looking for scary people to try to keep myself safe. Hence, I found scary people to attract scary things happening to me. So at that moment, for those of you that don't know that much of my story, again, like there's like this much that's actually people know and are focused on, like, oh, $2 an hour waitress that became multimillionaire and has $1 million clients and da-da-da, is like a piece. And that's why I want you to hear like all the real stuff that has been the beautiful gift. And so in that moment, I knew if I wanted to create health, I got to choose to live in alignment, live in the energy and of creating something different. And I swore my mom to secrecy. The only people who ever knew that I had breast cancer was my mom and my husband at the time. And I told her, if we're going to have a relationship, that now that I have this understanding that all I'm going to do is focus on health, and I'm going to focus on healing, and I'm healthy and I'm strong, and all we're going to talk about is how I'm healthy and strong and how my body works perfectly. And if we can't do that, then we'll just have to take a break on our connection, because I get to focus on healing, because I have a little boy I'm going to live for, and I have myself that I'm going to live for. And my mom committed to that, and it was a year later I went in and my breast cancer was gone. And I remember actually speaking at an event for breast cancer survival, and I invited my sister. It was a black tie affair. I had forgotten that no one knew. It was just like I totally forgotten that I even had the experience, because I was so focused on implementing and being. See, when you have this understanding, you simply have a choice. When you choose to be in these laws of alignment and be in your divinity and know the power that you are, it's simply a choice. That's how simple it is. And so once I became that, I literally, forgot that I'd even really had these experiences. And it came about that someone, ran into me, and of course the divine synchronicities of life, again, trusting the process of life, ran into someone one day, some random thing, and they asked me a question. They said something about breast cancer and that they were looking for a speaker, and that someone had, anyway, I don't even remember exactly how it happened, but it came out. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I went through breast cancer. I healed myself of it. And I ended up getting to speak for this group on how to focus on what they wanted to create. And my sister was sitting in the front row. And the moment I said, I experienced this, her jaw dropped. And I realized, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. We never told anybody. That's how committed I was to, I get to live and be in a different experience. And I only share all this with you to let you know, there's been quite the journey of healing from sickness to all sorts of things, from the poverty consciousness to the prosperity consciousness. And what I discovered this week, so to bring it back, and for those of you that are, jumping in now, yes, Jillian, good call, right? Laws of alignment. Is that when this week, so for years, and actually this last year has come up a ton for me, the sleeping thing. Where again, my brain just did not want to shut down, and so I've done tons more emotional work on it, and it was pulling out a lot of connections to sexual abuse, which I thought, again, was just my fear of the masculine. And guys, that's why I went through my journey of creating epic relationships too. I had to look at all the healing on sexual stuff, to even, all the things that would show up. And as again, I didn't have this memory of actual sexual abuse, but it was fear of sleeping, because then I'm not safe. I also got to look at my contracts with the planet that was I have an alien brain, it doesn't need to sleep, and it just wants to download and astral travel. I have so many people, as crazy to some people as this sounds, I have so many people every day that message me and say I came to them in their dreams and I gave them the answers they were seeking, and I had and I'm like, yep, that's just a part of what I do. I know I'm actually in several dimensions doing these things or have these abilities. Again, because of a lot of these experiences. So if you can see and understand why we choose these experiences, which stay with me, and I promise you I'm going to bring you full circle. When you understand that, that's why from these experiences in this context, we have a greater actual ability of understanding and compassion and vulnerability and love and all these things that allows us to unlock and open up more of our pathways, more of our DNA, more of our gifts and abilities, more of our healing abilities, to be able to be a resource and share in this uprising of our frequency for everyone, right? It's what changes our capacity. So I want to from this massive, it's been really calling me this last year to keep looking at. I would be just fucking exhausted, and my entire life I took the power of the understandings I had, and I was like, cool, I get to create energy. Even if I had no sleep at all, I got to create energy. And there's a different level of this where it's cool, I wanting to figure this out. It's led to a lot of other sickness issues that have, it's had me seeking and searching. And so, here I am seeking more understanding on this as to why this has come up several times recently over the last year, and what else I get to learn. It's well, where else do I get to heal this? It actually brought up where my face would have toxic breakouts, and that allowed me to go to, and it's still happening, it allows me to go to a whole nother level of, can I be seen and expressed? And it allowed me to go to a whole nother level of loving myself no matter what, realizing where I have an attachment or story to what is versus loving what is right now. And all of it has just unlocked more for me. So looking at this, okay, because what happened this past week, as I have just been in so much emotional stuff coming up. And then I discovered that I had, had actual sexual abuse when I was little. Then another healer brought it up. It's like the same visions kept popping up for me. And I got to, I realized what happened was I left a piece of my soul in this place, which is then, because there's been a piece of me that I still got to heal. Again, we get to heal all parts of us and see all parts of us. That's the gift of it. When I got to heal this part of me, what happened was I had all these new capabilities start showing up, right? So, and what I mean by that is like, when there was this, it was still uncovered. It was still hidden deep inside me. I've done a load of work, guys, and this is why I love giving these tools and understanding to my peeps, because you don't have to go the same massive long journey that I had to go to in understanding this stuff. You just get the insights and the understanding to be able to shift and move and do this right away. And as I did this healing work, or as these things came up, right, understanding why that's still been there for me, why sleep has still been an issue for me, because there was this deep thing still there saying that I completely blocked, saying it's not safe for me to sleep. Because again, nighttime was when I would get attacked. And, so I knew there was a connection there, but I wasn't ready to unlock that space. And what had to happen, this is like what's so interesting. Just hear me here, right? Hear me here. That's great. If my youngest hadn't felt called to go somewhere, to go stay in Utah, even for just a year, and then I hadn't also been open to, cool, I love and support and accept you in that journey, all the things I learned to do that, and knowing it would bring some things up for me, it's two things that you wouldn't even think would be connected. And because of that, and again, the process of leaning in, which I'm going to share a little bit around, it opened up for me that I had this thing still holding on inside me where a piece of my soul had been retracted. So as you understand that you have different traumas in life, it's like you gave away parts of your soul. You gave away parts of your fractal, your actual, just like your light, okay? And so when you have energy hooks or cords, now you've taken other people's too. Now, when you start to heal, it's like you're healing, so you're returning. It's almost like you're bringing back those fractal pieces. You're returning to your power. You also have power because you're not the victim of something. There's no blame or shame. You didn't lose it. You actually retrieve it back and say, aha, I see now how that gave me everything that I required, and I created that, which I'll go into. So there was, what came up was, this was so traumatic, because I just had these flashes of these memories, like, of waking up on the floor, curled in a little ball and just shaking. And I thought for years, it was just like, oh, I must have just, slept so deep and hard. I fell off the bunk bed. And it was this, as this came up, I was like, wait, there's no way I could have fallen off the bunk bed. It had a bar. And I stopped sleeping when I was a baby, because I was attacked by dark spirits from the time I was little. I had all these things that were already working on my system. I knew I came in here with a really big, journey and gifts to be able to expand into more. So I knew, I was like, I never slept from the time I was little. I've been struggling with the sleep thing from the time my past experience had been struggling with the sleep thing from the time I was little. And so all of a sudden it clicked. It was like, wait, how is that even possible for me to, be in the middle of the floor and wake up? And then I just got these little memories and these visions of a man over me and some different things. And so it's like I had that piece of my soul was taken or lost. And so through all of my healing, and look, I've created a fucking amazing life. And guys, this should give you power and evidence to what you can create as you just continue to lean in. Because even as I've just leaned in and found something huge, again, to me, because of my understanding, it wasn't like this painful thing for me to work through. I actually was like, wow, now I can connect the dots as to why there's still something withholding me from even more bliss and joy in having effortless sleep every night and feeling absolutely safe in the masculine and things that I've struggled with in that. And the skin issues and the healing issues and the body issues, all those things that had come up as a side effect and a part of that sleeping thing. And so it's like I'm now doing a soul retrieval healing process. And when I started this process, holy fuck, some things came through me. I'm now getting information, again, now my context and my understanding is able to even hold more, to see more. Okay, because the way that I operate my gifts is that I can see all things. So that's why with my peeps, I literally, can have a phone call and be like, I can see, a few people I'm sure on the line here can attest to this, is how I can see so many things operating going on that they weren't even aware of. And so it's that gift of seeing the unseen that we get to dive in, and we get to shift these things, heal these things, learn to align to new behaviors and patterns and belief systems, etc., that then bring it into the next level of receiving, the next level of joy. And so all of a sudden I've been receiving so much information. I'm actually going to do what I've been really feeling called to do is in February, I'm probably going to do a whole online day course on manifestation, because I actually see some of the tiny gaps. And I've already taught most of the gaps that a lot of people have no fucking clue exists, and why they're stuck in manifestation, and it's the very surface stuff. I already teach those gaps, and yet I saw a few more that are just, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so life-shifting and changing. So I've already, from just beginning this process, and that's why I say, like, the night that I came home after doing my first soul retrieval, and I did a meditation and activation in my ceremony room, and I really felt called to just call my mom. And see, this is even the level of a beautiful relationship we have now in healing, that I could call her and say, hey, this is what's come up, and could just give me any ideas of any thoughts or any things that you have around this way. This beautiful conversation. I'm like shaking and crying, and and this was just a couple days ago. I feel so much lighter. I feel so much more whole and complete, like I am retrieving. And so it's like, even as amazing as my life is and how much bliss I've created, there's always greater for me to experience. There's always greater for me to have, right? And so I want to look at this. I want to give you this context of understanding to see the depths of this, so that you can now apply this to what you're experiencing right now. And so if we look at the story and the experience of my former, right? Experiencing, having a cheating husband, and, my kids were only 1 and 4. For those of you that are, don't know that much about it, I had $10 to my name, and I went and became a waitress at 28 years old for the first time in my life, making $2 an hour. Paid a friend to sleep on my couch at night, to be able to go work at night, take care of my kids during the day because they were so little, and go work at night to just make $2 an hour plus tips, and try to put food on the table and pay the mortgage and survive. And now, looking at the beautiful gift of this, right, that I would not be here. Love you too, Dallas. I was just talking about him earlier, right? Like, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be having this beautiful, beloved experience, epic relationship. I wouldn't be having, I wouldn't be traveling the world doing what I love, having, $1 million clients. I wouldn't be, literally like have the life I had if my former had not given me that gift. And now his life, he's married, he has 2 stepkids. We're the most amazing partners in the journey of raising our boys. We're best friends and partners in that. We're always there to support each other and assist each other in that. And even though he lives a very different life, he lives more in a victim conscious life, I live in a different understanding of life. We eat completely differently. We live completely differently. We only honor each other, and that's, honor their perfect experience, and we have perfect communication, and we're here to be partners. He wouldn't have the life he wants, and I wouldn't have the life I want if that had not happened, right? So, yet most people, if you're stuck in this place of like, well, he cheated on me, and and this happened because of that, that's why you're still there, is because you don't see the truth. You don't see what's really happening. You didn't see the gift of trusting in the process of life. So my wounds, again, I actually, to back it up, when I started becoming conscious, I realized I used to say, if I'm the perfect wife and perfect mom, and I always look perfect, then my husband will love me, appreciate me, and never cheat on me. What was I declaring? So my little girl was scared of not being enough. My little girl was so afraid of rejection and so afraid of not being enough that I was again trying to control the situation. I was trying to look perfect and be perfect and have a clean house and do all the things that a good wife and mom would do to control it. But what was I afraid of? My vibration and my thoughts were like, I'm afraid I'll get cheated on. I'm afraid I'm not enough. I'm afraid of this. And I called in that exact experience. So I know my former, I only contracted with him as one of my best buddies in light and love. One of my, greatest gifts was like, hey, I will give you that experience so you can have this understanding and growth you're seeking. And he got his perfect experience of getting to play on that role inside. And believe me, we went through the journey of me being like, I will never date a guy that cheats, and I had all this judgment about cheating. Now I could never have a thought or anything but pure gratitude and appreciation for what you go through on that side of the massive amount of learning and growth there is to deal with that as your experience as well. And in fact, every so often he sends me a message out of the blue where he's just like, I am so sorry. And I'm like, please realize you gave me the greatest gift. Thank you, thank you, thank you. First off, we contracted and have the most amazing boys, and you gave me the greatest gift to find myself. Please, thank you. And I'm the one trying to assist him. And again, from his understanding and where he's at in life, still always just tell him, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So when we look at that, our wounds, my wounds of being scared. Guys, I'm sharing with you every fucking thing about my life openly because that's what I stand in. And I know the only way you have the power to see new contexts of understanding and new possibilities, and you step into it as well and realize that you're safe to do it, because only you can give yourself permission to be safe. Only you can give yourself permission to live the life that you want to live. When I just stand here and be me, it's the easiest fucking thing there is. There's nothing hard about this. It's always going to be as easy or as hard as you make it. So when I stand here in my truth, I am free. There's nothing to hide. When I try to hide, when I was trying to wear a mask and hide, and I would have been so afraid, even when I first got, had the cheating experience, I remember being so afraid of telling people that was my experience because I was afraid they'd think, oh, well, if husband cheated on you, you must have not had good sex or something, right? Because there, again, our brain wants to have all of these things come out that makes us want to be scared. Instead of it's just like, had nothing to do with it. Instead, it was really that's exactly what I called in for my experience. It actually was everything that I asked for. So looking at this, right, as humans, why we try to control. We're constantly trying to control. It's our conditioning. We want to control things. We want to, what does that actually do? When you try to control things, okay, that it has to look a certain way, that it's in a parameter or a box. Now, when you're just like, if you've ever heard, I love this story. There's this great story about a guy who, like, a flood comes and he's on his front porch saying, like, God save me, God please save me. Totally has trust in knowing that he has a savior, he has God, and God will save him. He's like, God please save me. And the floods come up to the doorway and the boat comes by and it's like, come on, get in. And he's like, no, God will save me. Awesome. So they drive off, right? Then the floods keep coming up. He ends up eventually on his roof, and I don't remember what happens if a fire truck comes by, but there's all these things that come by to give him the ability to be saved. And he ends up on his roof, and the floods are coming up, and he's like, God save me. A helicopter drops in and drops the rope and says, grab the rope. And he says, no, God will save me. So he gets to the pearly gates, and he's like so upset at God. Why didn't you save me, God? Why didn't you save me? I believed in you. I trusted you. I knew that you would come. I knew that you would save me. Why didn't you save me? And God's like, did you not see the boat? Did you not see the fire truck? Did you not see the helicopter? I gave you every chance to save you. You get to choose to save yourself. So when we think, oh, no, it has to look a certain way, we actually don't see all the possible availability, all of the amazing things that we're blocking infinite possibilities, okay? There is like 75% dark matter in the multiverse. There's 20% dark energy, okay? That dark matter and energy is what creates matter. Again, when you have a thought, the gravity pulls it and you create something. So with that, that's the possibility we have. In the nothingness is infinite possibility. In the nothingness is open space, right? So you can't even see. Again, I wouldn't have seen that I had this that would give me new understanding. I literally feel like I'm on the verge, and what showed up moment after moment as I've been leaning into this has been the next gift and the next gift and the next gift that's just giving me more healing, more solution, more understanding, more depths, more. I would not have even seen it. There's no way my human brain could have ever planned it out. And that's the crazy in trying to control anything, because it's completely against our divine nature. It's actually a human control. It's a human creation. It's a human conditioning. It's created out of lack and scarcity and fear, which is a man-made energy, right? So we're blocking all of our greatest happiness and joy and pleasure by trying to control something. to create it to be a certain way. So how creation happens, let's think about that, right? Creation happens actually moment by moment. In this moment, whatever I'm thinking and feeling, again, speaking, so your operating systems, my perception center, like my programming, right? The thoughts that I'm having, the things that I'm looking for and seeing, even what I'm listening for, okay? The words that I'm speaking that are declaring something, and most of all, my energetic system, my vibrational system, my feeling center, all of those in this moment are creating something. They're already pulling the gravity to me, and it shows up. Now, how I choose to respond in that moment creates the next thing and the next thing. So you notice when you just go, this is what's here. Wow, okay, well, what would I want? What would feel good? And you ask those questions to then allow you to tune into the energy of your divinity, which is love energy. It's curiosity, wonderment, excitement, all those things. When we move to that, the next thing shows up, and the next thing shows up. Just like from the stuff that showed up with Gavin, the next thing showed up, and the next thing showed up, and the next thing showed up. From, everything I've ever been through. It's like when I even, back in the day, now I live in such a space of just like what feels good, and I live moment by moment, because this is creation. This is why I'll just be like, cool guys, what do we get to share and what comes out? I could never plan out what I could give you now that would give you an inkling of what I could do when I just freely express, when I just let myself be in the moment by moment. Ooh, this is the next thing, and this draws me here, and this tells me here. It's you guys are creating this right now. If I sat here with an agenda and an expectation or an attachment, or had like, I get to do this for then it would be a completely different experience, which is probably why you're here listening to me anyways, is you've already felt the energy of this and this feeling and know. And so many people say to me they can trust me because they know I'm completely unapologetic and I'm completely truthful and just share it all. So being in this, right? Being in this moment at a time, moment by moment, is like when the next thing shows up. So you take a step, so you're looking at the mountaintop, you take a step, and the next thing shows up that leads me to something greater than I could have ever planned out. And that is the beauty of creation. It is moment by moment. That is the trusting in the process of life, right? So when we're trying to control, the answers are coming from our head. They're coming from our monkey mind. Now remember, you've heard me say that using our mind is literally like only using your pinky finger out of all of your body functioning and capabilities. It's only meant to connect the dots. It's meant to support you. It is not your creation center. And yet most people are like, what are we trying to do? Okay, I'm going to strategize. What do I get to do here in business? And that's why I always say, any strategy is going to work when you're internally aligned, which is your heart. Your heart is doing the speaking. Take that in for a second, because that's where we really get to go in living as our highly evolved beings, as the divine being you are, is that you're living and operating from heart source, okay? And so this, when we're in the surrender to all the possibilities to be received, that comes from using our heart. That comes from using our heart. That doesn't come from planning anything out, right? It's like, think about when you're present in a moment with someone and you're feeling what they're going through and you're talking to them. When you're trying to figure out what you're going to say and you're trying to show up a certain way, you're in your head. You're not even feeling them. You're not in your heart, and there's a completely different experience to that. And so I want to, in giving you this context, right? Because again, going back for those of you that had dropped on or come on a little bit later, is that we can only have the understanding when we create the context. Our mind can only take in that level of consciousness. We can only equate to the new frequency of consciousness when we see what's really happening, when we have a set point or a level of context to now go, oh, I see it, and now I can't actually ignore that. I have this truth and this understanding. So there's laws and principles I want to give you. Hang on, I've got all these little notifications popping up. But there's laws and principles that I want to give you as set points. And first of all, whoever's constantly giving me hearts and thumbs up, you guys are the best. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all the pure love. It's amazing. Everything is for me, okay? So when you start as a baby, you're in a place of like, life happens as me. You're just literally like, what do I like? And you're crawling around and you're figuring out how to use your hands and your fingers, and you're like, do I like this? Oh, I don't like that. Do I like that? Life happens as you. You're just here to discover you. This is why when we go back to remembrance, you're just here to discover and remember your divinity. And And as we go, start to grow, then again, we get the human conditioning and the programming and all these things. Also, it becomes life happens to me as a victim. And as you continue to evolve and get to this place of understanding that you're most likely here because you're like feeling this call to be awake and to be the creator, to have a greater experience, to experience heaven on earth bliss consciousness, to get to these ways of being. You're seeking more because you know there's more. You become the creator of your world. Now, obviously, I talk about there's levels that go beyond that, and I'm not really going to go into that right now. There's the life happening through me, and obviously you're a co-creator with the universe and the multiverse to effortlessly create whatever you want. The point being, what I want you to hear is when you understand even that you're the creator, meaning everything is for me. Everything that you've experienced, everything is for me. It didn't happen to you, it happened for you. Now, use my own personal examples. Go back to my former and cheating husband. That happened for me, didn't it? We can see pretty clearly now that happened for me. We can see that all of the traumas that I had in my life happened for me to be here. I've liberated a shit ton of people, and myself, the liberation had to come from myself being liberated. But if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be liberated, and I also wouldn't get to be just an example of truth for others to choose liberation for themselves. Actually, and I'm going to rephrase that, they liberated themselves. I was honored to be on the journey because I can't ever take credit for what anyone else ever does or claim anything for them. I'm just honored to be a part of that journey and to be able to share some of these gifts and this understanding and this context and this way of being that gives these codes and these insights to remember your divinity and how effortless it does get to be, that you do get to live in heaven on earth now. So first off, just remembering everything happens for me. When you understand that law and principle, because, and I'll break it down as to why everything happens for you. All of it came from love. All of it came from love. Okay, so how is this experience you're in love? When you look at it and you look at your holographic mirror, the holographic mirror that you're in right now, the holographic illusion that you've created, it's there because of you, because you called it in and created it out of love. So again, when we drop back to the understanding that I created everything, I chose the thoughts, I chose the words, I chose the perceptions, I chose the feelings. I even contracted before that said, I want to learn those things. I want to learn those things. So I actually set up and asked, please serve and support me in these things showing up so that I can understand these things. I can learn how to work through them so that my wounds become my strengths. I'm the one who did that for myself out of love. That person is showing up for me out of love. The universe has brought it to me out of love. It's all actually love. Love is the only energy that exists. Love is creation energy, which means it's love, or love is curiosity, wonderment, excitement. I wonder how that could be. It's excited to see. It's wondering. That's the energy of creation. It's a high vibe energy of like, I'm excited. This is for me. What could that be? Where instead, we've created the opposite, and we've been living in the opposite, which is fear-based energy, lack, scarcity, worry. That's man-made, okay? So when we understand everything is for me, of course, because I created everything out of love. That's the truth. That's the law and the principle that I want you to understand, that allows you to know you can trust this process of life because everything in your hologram is for you. Everything in your hologram is for you. And this is the other thing is to understand. So I remember for a long, I struggled with this back in the day before my understanding. And I've had people say like, ooh, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I choose this, then what about da-da-da-da, and what if this happens? And I don't know if that's going to be right. And they're stuck in this place of questioning if something's going to be right or thinking they made a mistake in the past. They should have chose something else or done something else. Craziness, right? Because first off, you're in the present moment, so only now is ever happening. And so when you're thinking about the past, you're not living in the now. And when you're projecting in the future what you're afraid is going to happen, you're not living in the now. And all you're actually doing is going to call in that very thing that you're afraid of, just like I told you how I called in all those things trying to control it. So you're sitting in this place trying to control what's going to happen in the outcome based on your decision, which means you're going to create that exact thing because that's what you're trying to control, and that's what that force fight energy, that scarcity, lack, worry, I'm not enough, I need this to control it, it's got to be this way and it's got to look this way to control it. You're putting out exactly what you're afraid of that's going to control you. Now, the point being to that, right, is that when you understand that, and I mentioned kind of before how chaos creates the clarity. And when we get to the place where, if you understand, I can never make a mistake. I can never make a mistake, right? Like, what I want to say is like, that space where people are like, what if I choose this or what if I choose this? No matter what you fucking choose, it's perfectly perfect for you. It's perfect for what you're calling in, what you're wanting to experience to allow you to have greater. So it's not like, oh, I should have chose that. No, you chose this for a reason. You chose this because it was exactly what you required. So whatever you choose will always be perfect. You can never make a mistake. Never make a mistake. Now, notice the freedom that comes in that. I can never make a mistake? No, you can't. You can't, because everything you do, you're doing it perfectly. Everything you experience is a perfect experience for you. So it gives you that gift, right? Because everything is simply a gift. Now that you have this understanding, you realize everything is a gift. Everything is a gift that you chose. And so any chaos that you're in, now you can see it for the truth that it is. The chaos is there for you to find the clarity. The wound is there to become the strength. The mess becomes the message. You asked for these things out of love by you as the creator, everything being for you, you never being able to make a mistake so that you could have those experiences and create the new context, the greater level of understanding. Remember, instead of 400 billion bits of information that can come into your brain at once and you only processing 2,000, maybe now you're up to 5,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. You're becoming an awakened being by the vibrational state that you are, and consciousness just equates to frequency. Okay? So why these contexts and this understanding is so important for you in trusting the process of life. Okay? So going back to these laws and these principles, if everything is for you and all these things that I've shared with you, can't we now see everything can only get greater and greater? Can you now see that it's impossible? For every single day that you live, you're wiser. You've had more experience. You've had more understanding. You've had, so many gifts. Every day, more experience with yourself, more experience with others. All of it is feedback. There's no fucking way from that you can't be better off every single fucking day. Right? Can we do massive hearts for that? Do you guys get this? Can you not see then that to not trust this process of life is blocking everything else? It's blocking all the infinite possibility that are there for you by not trusting the process of life. Just like you can trust the sun to rise and set because you've seen it. You've seen it over and over, guys, right? So it's like, oh, I trust that. I trust that I'm going to breathe every day, okay? Well, there's a difference. Obviously, we know that just seeing something, it's whatever we're feeling, and these things that I've attuned you to is going to create that experience, and whatever shows up is based on what's going on here. And until we're willing to accept that, so I'm going to give you, now that you have these laws and these principles, this context, I want to give you, actually what's coming through is to share with you, there was, I wonder if I have it, hang on, I'm going to grab my Sophia code, because I actually think that there's something powerful I want to share with you. 1 second. I have it. Sophia code, handy, boom. And I know I just went through one of these activations, and I thought this was so powerful. So hang on 1 second. I know it's really close. It's right here. This was really powerful for me to just even put in context around this, to have another example of how life was showing me, again, trusting the process of life, how life was showing me exactly how it really is, right? So in Sophia Code, when we look at, it talks about the truth and the understanding of the rose. And think about it. There's rose quartz, right, which is the energy of love. So if somebody gives you rose quartz, or you have rose quartzes in your home, etc., it's to like assist in opening the heart. It's to assist in having more love energy in your space. If you look at the frequency of a rose, the hertz of a rose. You even can look up different sound frequencies on Spotify and the different healings of the human body frequency. Rose frequency, I think, is actually the highest frequency, okay? Then we look at what I said earlier. All things actually come from love, okay? So even if you're triggered and there's pain in something, when you see how is this love, you see that your scared little boy or girl was really just afraid of not being enough. and you see it through the eyes of love. Oh, it's like if you looked at a little 3-year-old and you're like, oh, sweetie, why are you scared? That's what's actually happening. So you can see that through the eyes of love, why someone might put up a wall or put up a guard or put up a trigger. So when we understand, again, now looking at love, looking at the rose, looking at the teachings of the rose, I'm going to read you guys something from the Sophia Code, which hang on, I think it's right here. Okay. The soft beauty of a rose is incomplete without the silent ferocity of its thorns. And every teaching arising from the rose is a reflection of the seeming paradox. The beautiful rose petals, and it has its thorns, doesn't it? This is really cool. The teachings of the rose drip with pearls of wisdom alchemized from the positive creative tension that exists between two seemingly opposing polarities, which generate a transcendent third energy of wholeness. So as such, the rose provides a pathway of reconciliation that frees you from choosing between dualistic polarities and shifts your focus to meditate upon the wholeness that is being created by two seemingly opposing forces. So for example, you do not have to banish the thorns of your humanity to behold your divinity. So I'll say that again. You do not have to banish the thorns of your humanity to behold your divinity. Your human awareness and the ego structures that come with your physical body provide a necessary creative tension for seeking out your divinity and consciously embodying that divinity. What did I talk about online? All these issues with my physical realm that led me in vulnerability to seek out higher understanding, to be able to actually create a different experience, hence healing myself of breast cancer, creating all the understanding of myself. If I didn't have the polarity of the thorns and the darkness and these things that you would deem to be bad or wrong or scary or blah, 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 I wouldn't have found the divinity in it. I would have found the power and capability and the truth of who I am and what I'm whole and complete and worthy of already. So let's see if there's anything else here I want to share with you on this. Unconditional love and acceptance for the totality of you. Isn't that what we're talking about? Especially your humanity is the reconciliation that allows for your awareness and ego to fully integrate into the omniscient light and sovereign divinity of your highest self. Holy fuck, that's awesome, right? I'm so glad that I felt like sharing that, like that just kind of came through, because when you guys realize what that's encapsulating is everything we've talked about, which is when I trust this process of life in front of me, right? Just like these transmissions and understandings that have given me freedom. All these things that have given me, like, I don't even know how to describe it feels like freedom is not even a word to really encapsulate what I have experienced. And, it's what's allowed me to vibrate at the state of bliss level consciousness. It's allowed me, it's like me learning to have the codes of, I was enslaved. For those of you that have been on here the whole time and heard a bit of my story that I've shared with you, I was enslaved. I was in prison. For me to go from that to freedom and liberation and remembrance, that's why it was my journey to understand these processes and to get these codes, to then be able to teach the understanding to unlock in your brain and open up your pathways and activate the dormant DNA within you, that you too could understand and see a paradigm shift, and you could know and find these abilities within yourself to create something different, to even to see the example of what is truly possible for you. Heaven on earth now, right? So, and this is why, even those of you that are coming next weekend to, Goddess Empire, my enlightened empire, that was a direct download of just do this day, and all these things that came through, this understanding to be able to share. For those of you that are joining me in the Gene Keys course with my dear sister, Katerina. Katerina! Of course, the moment I mention her name, here my sister is, right? Diving into the Gene Keys. So as you guys have heard, this whole transparent, authentic, vulnerable share that I've just given you, right? The Gene Keys is one of the greatest transmissions and gifts. Just like you heard like this divine transmission out of the Sophia Code that I just read, the Gene Keys has been like my Bible. I know it's been like Katerina's Bible as well. And offering these truths, this context, and this understanding. So that starts in the next couple weeks. So for those of you that are interested in diving deep into your own genetic map and DNA of your shadows that get to transmute to your gifts, the wounds that create your greatest strengths, that was a big, massive part of my awakening and my opening. So I'll make sure I put the link in there for that. And then I'll let you guys know this next month. So, I mean, even from what's shown up, just to kind of give you guys more context to, I told you I've been doing these healings and how the next thing, literally thing by thing is just shown up for me, trusting the process of life. And in like a week or so, a couple weeks after my event, I'm going to be going off to do even some more in-depth processes for like 4 days off-grid. And when I come back, I'm really feeling called to do an online day on manifestation and give you guys some of these insights that have come through me now at even a greater degree, because I was able to unblock and see the sexual abuse that was there. And literally my system is light and free. My system, I'm like, wow, oh, this is what it feels like. You know, there was that one piece of me that was still holding on to something that I hadn't discovered to, again, turn that darkness into light and create even more freedom, even more bliss, even more joy. So please, please, please know that as you take a step each day and you trust the process of life, it can only give you greater. It can only give you the ability to have more love. It can only give you the ability to have, everything that you require. So I just want to share with you, how do you then surrender? Because we've talked about control is controlling you. How do you surrender to control? How do you surrender all of that? How do you let go? Just like I was like, cool, this is what gets to, where it gets to go. And, my kids moved, and now I'm letting go of the house, and I'm becoming nomadic, and I'm going to travel all over the world, and all these other things have come up. We see how, like, when we surrender to it, what I want to say, my simple process to surrender is accept. Well, first off, actually, it's allow. So allow. When something shows up in front of you, see, the thing is, we always try to fight it, like ignore it, run away, push away, control it. That's your old human conditioning. Anything, remember everything that I said around the laws and the principles, that everything is for you. You created it all out of love. You can never make a mistake. So this thing in front of you, lean in. So that actually would be my very first step. Lean in. Breathe and lean in and allow what's in front of you to be there. And then you accept what's in front of you to be there. Just like I've even gotten to accept the skin stuff that was showing up and the sleeping stuff that was showing up, and it was like, cool, I'm surrendering to this, I'm accepting this, and from that allowance and acceptance, then I lean in and I embrace it. What is here for me, right? Glenn, I'm so glad you're motivated. I'm sitting in front of the fireplace that you know. So beautiful. It's like when I embrace this and I embrace this, what did it give me? It gave me the next level of understanding. It gave me the next level of my gifts. It gave me the next level of freedom, liberation, remembrance, peace, passion, play. It is all perfectly for you. So it's an intention without an attachment or an expectation. I can have an intention to, have $1 million clients. But if I could have an intention, let's say, like my intention is always like, I'm living in bliss life. Okay, now if I think, well, that means it has to look like this. It means this would be an attachment. I have to have $1 million clients, or it has to be this way, or I have to do it like that person, or it means that, oh, I'm already living in this kind of a house and I have this kind of ability. Otherwise, I have an attachment that says, I'm not there yet, I'm not enough. Now I'm in force, fight, lack, scarcity energy, and I'm not in the surrender of like, this in front of me is what's here for me to learn. And from that, I go, ooh, what would feel good? So guys, if you're not, I have steps to all this, obviously. Those of you that maybe are new to me, or maybe, if this calls to you, there's definitely more. Just reach out and message me. We have everything from online programs, etc. I don't really care. That's not my intention here. My intention was just to share with you what was coming through, what's shifted for me in this transition, seeing how my babes moving led me to discover sexual abuse that I had blocked, and how healing that and leaning into that has given me fucking more freedom and more joy and more pleasure and more understanding, more context, more capabilities, more gifts, that I am here to stand even bigger and stronger and taller for you to share. The possibilities that are there for you when you simply let go and surrender of all the lies and stories and attachments of what it has to look like and who it has to be. Again, loving myself fully even as my skin stuff showed up. I'm like, cool, what's here for me? There's more for me to love, that I even had an attachment that I have to look a certain way to be on camera, or for me to feel safe, for me to love myself, and getting to embrace that and go to parties with that and see friends with that and be authentic about what I was experiencing. that all has given me more love for myself. And just to be like, oh, that's silly human conditioning that would make me think that I'm enough based on that. Wow, like how is that blocking more love and joy and expression and play and all of these things? So each day I'm still just continuing to receive a gift after a gift after a gift. So every single day, every single thing that you're experiencing is the gift, because you created it, you can never make a mistake, and it's all for you. So I hope that through all of this, first off, share this with people that are struggling, that really maybe feel like a victim, you know, and sometimes it's a challenge for people to hear, but if we're not willing to speak the truth, then we can't give ourselves, oh, I have low battery, so it means I probably better, I better be wrapping it up, because, you know, I'm sure I've been going for quite a period of time anyways, but if you guys have questions, if you require support, there's so many beautiful beings that have so many gifts to share. You know, like I said, Katarina, my dear sister, that just popped on. We're doing a course together. I mean, what a great, beautiful, bright light. There's countless, infinite possibilities for you to have greater and greater and greater. It just means you trust in the process of this life. You trust in each moment. So breathe and lean in and allow and accept and embrace whatever you're experiencing, because that is the key to your next greatest freedom, liberation, and remembrance. I love you guys. Power choice is yours. Choose your best life and lock it down.